get started. Like we're not on YouTube, but we're still getting recorded. And if you'd like to stay with us and smile, that will be great. And if you still want to be on with us and not be on video, that's also okay. Let me go to the next. Yeah, and just a few things that we normally share this on YouTube. We also take some screenshots, and yeah, and we just like to just keep sharing, and and we want you to share as well. Okay, next slide, please. So who we are, these are the people who make the Wednesday Web Jam, who join the Wednesday Web Jam. So if you feel that you're a part of us, yay. And even if you don't spot yourself, I'm sure you'll make a place for yourself here. So today's session, oh yes, and another failing forward, which we just had now, where we were supposed to live stream and that didn't happen, but we still managed. And yeah, be kind, be nice, be empathetic, and this is the space for everyone. Next slide. So today's session is a session about ideas, but it's also a session about a way to present ideas. It's actually a two-part session. We have today's session and also the following week session, which you will hear about in a bit. So the reason why we chose this is that we all have different styles of presenting, and and what is it that makes it different, and what is it makes it unique. So Pecha Kucha is one of those styles. It's a very fast-paced, innovative style, which is supposed to be a conversation. It was made in about 203, sorry, it was 2003 by Astrid, Klein, and Mark Dytham. And Pecha Kucha is basically I thought it was Spanish. It's not Spanish. It's actually a Japanese word, and it means chit chat. So I thought that why don't we look at using this space for Pecha Kucha and see how we can utilize it for our own jam, because Pecha Kucha means 20 slides. Each slide is for 20 seconds. So in this session, we're going to be exploring the structure as it is, or can you also reinvent, because Wednesday Web Jam is about reinvention, it's about re-exploring. So how can we restate a given context in the same style or even something different? So that's what we are going to be exploring today. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Pecha Kucha. I was going to do it in the Pecha Kucha style, but I'm slightly unwell, so I don't think I can manage with the speed and the tone modulation, which is very, very important. Those are one of the key things. So Mimp is going to help me today to just go through the slides. So thank you, Mimp. Mimp, can you go to the next slide, please? So what is it? It's about 20 seconds for 20 slides. You can pick a context, and it's very, very fast paced. So that's why each slide shouldn't be more than 20 seconds. So how do we do that? Next slide. Exactly, fast paced. Next slide. In a very concise manner. So it's almost like giving a summary of the context that you're building around your topic. Next slide. It should have a logical chain of thought. Even when things are fast paced, when you're explaining it to somebody, how do you build that coherence in your speech? Because when you're a storyteller or when you're communicating an idea, it's very important that from start to finish, what you're communicating is understood. It's something I struggle with, is to be concise and to kind of build the stories together. Next slide. So that's why you need to have one main idea with the following scene. So if you have that main idea that pivots around your scene, it's much easier to kind of convey the narration that you're creating. Next slide. Keep the phrase is very short. So like longer sentence, people will read more. You would be dictating more in a presentation like this. So it has to be very concise. Next slide. Exactly. Speed in your speech, which is obviously something I'm not doing today, but it's very important that you have that speech and clarity, both all in ad speech, speech and clarity together. Next slide. And that brings around the storytelling. So how do you form that storytelling? While keeping whatever I've said in mind and also building it more effectively. Next slide. Be visual. That's one of the things that I've seen with PechaKucha, and also when I've done it, is that rather than just having text, because it's so fast paced, imagery plays a large part in the way that you kind of style your whole presentation. Next slide. Plan. You can use it in different contexts, which I will be talking about later. So even if it's in a very short time or in a long time, make sure that you plan. Maybe you do a quick sketch, maybe you plan, for maybe 2-3 days, but planning is a very important part of Pecha Kucha. Next slide. Make it interesting, that captivates your audience. Next slide. Because it needs to be interesting, it has to make sense. So how do you build that sense making? And especially when it's with sprints or bootcamps. So where can you use Pecha Kucha? So you can use it in a collective setting, like a sprint or a bootcamp. So where you plan quickly and put it together. Next slide. Or you could do it solo, like you're a solo presenter, and you just want to quickly kind of bring it up before a focused group, and you just want to convey your session, and then you get people into your workshop. That's also a great place to use Pecha Kucha. Next slide. It also helps with insight mapping. So let's say you've got your team together and you want them to quickly come up with that insight. So this is a great way to put all your thoughts together and sum it up. So in a summary form. Next slide. Yeah, one thing for a Pecha Kucha, keep it short, avoid bullet points. Bullet points don't work. The whole essence of it just fizzles out because, you're in that chain of thought, and you're in that mind space. So it has to have that clarity and ease. Next slide. Yeah, keep it light, because you want people engaged and interested. Next slide. Easy to follow, so it's not very difficult to comprehend, yet it's easily communicatable. Next slide. Avoid repetition, because the fact that it's only 20 slides for 20 seconds for 20 slides, repetition doesn't help, because it just becomes monotonous. So you utilize your space, your time, your speed effectively and smartly. And and the last slide, be relaxed. It's quite high paced. So one thing is that the ease of the speaker also involves the brings in the audience better. So yeah, that's all from me. Mimp, if you could stop sharing the screen. This is what I had to share. I hope we've got everybody interested and energized about the next few speakers. To share something, the only brief is what you all read, was that this is a Pecha Kucha session. This is 20 seconds for 20 slides. So how would you all communicate your idea? So this was one of the things, is that the exploration of how can you use, do you need to be structured? Can you create your own flair? So this is something we'll be exploring today. So our first speaker would be Yuhun. So why don't you take it over from me? Thank you.
Thank you. I think I'm going to break half of the rules of the Pecha Kucha, but we'll see. Let me share my screen. Here. Okay. Giving nature a voice with life-centered design. This lake is going to tell you something. It's not just me that I'm going to tell something, but this lake is going to tell you something later on in the Pecha Kucha. My name is Jeroen Spoelstra. I'm a designer and I live in the Spanish Pyrenees, and this is my happy place. And this is my happy wife, and together we run Untitled Studio, and we are in the midst of the mountains where we live. And we moved here in 2018 with a van full of our stuff and full of love. And this is our house and our studio and our village. And here we live together with 30 people, or they've been living here like centuries in generations, or they come from abroad and they're new. Let me explain you something about life-centered design. Life-centered design is about design that goes beyond human needs. It's about different perspectives. It's focused on longevity. We have to think in terms of like trees growing like 100 years or 250 years. It's holistic beyond human-centered design, and it should be good for nature and for humans. And this is the first drawing I ever made when I thought about like developing life-centered design. And I can't explain it in 20 seconds, but you can look it up in our website, or I can share it later with you. But it's basically, I divided the world in a biological ecosystem, a human ecosystem, and a digital ecosystem. And what we're doing as humans is create bigger ecosystems for ourselves, bigger for the digital world, and we suppress biological ecosystems. And I believe we should reverse that. So what is life-centered design? My definition. Life-centered design is a design philosophy and approach that goes beyond human needs and puts life at the center of our creation. The long-term goal is to restore the biological ecosystems and create a new balance between nature and humanity. We need to design new connections with each other, with our food and our work, and most importantly, life on Earth around us. This starts with the realization that humans are part of nature. If you Google the future, then this is what you see. Blue, white, AI, VR, tech. But why not create futures that look like this? Future scenarios. You know, like currently we're kind of destroying the earth, making it all brown and like brown soil and not fertile, but can we reverse that? Can we create more regenerative futures? I believe in innovation, efficiency, and technology are not going to save the world. They're not going to save our planet. Let me explain. We created a tool that's called ecosystem context map, and that basically lets you see the blind spots. It has 6 topics: your stakeholders, your non-human life, natural life, your natural habitat, your resources, your non-user communities, and your community. If I practice this with participants, this is the only thing they come up with in the beginning: your stakeholders. They don't know what kind of relationship they have as an organization with the nature around them or the resources. So this is all blind spots. We can come up with them later on, but like these are the blind spots. What I do with this exercise is actually create non-human personas or non-user personas. So I take a body of nature and we create like a story around it. We tell the story of the lake. Let me give an example. This is the lake we've done in our region. I'm gonna tell a little bit of her story. Hello, I'm Ibon de Plan, also known as Bassa de Mora. Welcome. I'm a glacial lake, which means I have been here since prehistorical times. The 430-kilometer long mountain chain of the Pyrenees you can see around me were formed 650 million years ago by the collision of the tiny Iberian and Eurasian plate. Thanks to a few designers and a group of students, I'm now a persona. I can talk and share my feelings to them. I'm never alone. I have a big role here. I host an entire ecosystem, from the microorganisms and frogs that live in my waters to the cattle and animals that come to drink me. My rocks protect the lizards that live under me and the moss that resides on top of me. Nowadays, I'm even part of Instagram pictures. Sometimes I feel like humans only see me as an expendable and add on to the place that doesn't live or breathe. But I do. My lungs are the mountains from which I draw the snow that composes my mass. My legs are the path I take to arrive to the delta of the Ebro. I have a direction, indeed, a reason to exist. I am not the actual reason you came. Connect with me. I'm a natural obstacle that forces you to go around me. You cannot not see me. You have to stop and choose which way to go and which path to follow. When you leave your trash and swim inside my waters, you are poisoning me with your human creams and sunscreens, leaving a chemical trace that will decades to disappear. If I had a voice, I would ask you to protect me. I'm not sure if I'm doing too well, but I don't know what's wrong with me. I would like to be tested. You can listen to her, the whole story, on our website. If you go to unmeetstudio.com, and there you find an audio file where you hear the lake. So what did I learn about Yvonne de Plan? What did she taught me? We did immersive experiences and it creates real connections with nature. Emotional narratives might help to create a sense of urgency. We need to move, think, and act in the nature pace and not in the fast pace that we have to do in the Pecha Kucha. The hyper-local is destroyed by the hyper-global. Because this lake doesn't only talk to tourism here or to me, but to people all over the world. So I believe we have to design for life. I believe that design should uncover what we don't do. It's our universal responsibility to show the world a future in which nature and life on our planet get a strong voice. A future where we humans are connected with nature, a future where nature gets more space. And if you want to learn more about this, I organize free workshops and then we can play with these tools. And that was it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jeroen. Would anybody like to ask something to you?
Yeah, how was the decision to move over to that location?
Love. I'm from the Netherlands. My wife is Costa Rican, and like we thought, like, well, the Netherlands are a very open country, and we could and Marcia could kind of migrate there, but no, like money didn't allow it. And I lived in Haarlem. She lived in Barcelona at the time. And then we decided to kind of like, okay, let's kind of like redesign our lives. What do we really want from our lives, and how do we see that? And the mountains and nature was like one big thing. And we want one of us to understand the language. So Costa Rican Spanish is easy, and like the Netherlands, we didn't want to live in Belgium. So
Union is asking how many people from elsewhere moved to Ibon after you told the stories.
How many moved to Ibon after you told the stories? To Ibon, I hope no one, because it's like on 1900 meters high, and that Ibon is that lake, and but what you see is like it's a lake that's very popular in summer. So you can drive up there via a very easy road, and it's kind of if you're walking like on the Ramblas in Barcelona, that busy. So, and there's no restrictions or anything. So there's no space for nature to recover in the summer and those kind of things.
Thank you so much. We'll hear more from you. Should we go to our next speaker, Deepshika?
Hey everyone. Okay, so I'll jump right into my presentation. Here we go. I hope my screen is visible. This is the project that I'm talking about. So my name is Deepshika. I love traveling around India. I love reading poetry, and Mary Oliver is one of my favorite poets. I'm also into spirituality, and I'm just in general a very kind of a person. This is me professionally. I love to, I'm a futures facilitator. I conduct workshops around future impact of technology. I am the founder of World We Desire. And on weekends, I moderate panel discussion for startups. I am also into getting started into climate change training. So here's the journey I've followed so far. I started with conducting design thinking workshops in 2019, 2020, and 2021. I've been doing personal future sessions online globally. And in 2022, I just wrapped up a series about the future impact of technology, again, a futures thinking related workshop. I am very much influenced by an author called Alvin Toffler. He's a futurist. Reading his books completely changed me. I could feel the difference before and after reading each of the book. And this is the type of impact I want to create to my audience. I realized that it's not just the immediate impact that it created, but a long-term impact that it has created on me. And that is the level of impact I want for my audience. There are lots of different names for futures thinking, design fictions, speculative design, foresight, and I conduct workshops around that. My two focus areas are around personal futures and impact of technology. And I'm going to talk about impact of technology mainly in this presentation project that I recently finished. My three goals with that was to reach out to as many general public as I can through my workshops, and also involves different players like impactpreneurs, entrepreneurs, digital nomads in my workshops. So these are the workshops that I did in this 8-week series that I'm going to talk to you about. I covered sessions like artificial intelligence, CRISPR, outer space, metaverse, 3D printing, and had a conversation around how the future product and services are going to look like, thereby creating lots of scenarios. This is the community which ended up attending those workshops, and we had a blast with it. Most of them, we conducted it at a co-living / co-working place. So most of them are in their early 20s, entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs, interested in technology, and that's what brought them there. And so the general structure that we followed for these workshops, the approach was basically have them think about the product and services of the future and then build a world around it, creating lots of scenarios around that thing. We used liberating structures, futures thinking, and business management frameworks to do that. Some of the conversations that we had, like there were lots of interesting conversations that happened, and basically the impact it created could be categorized in 4 different levels. They came mainly for the curiosity about the technology, but then they ended up learning more about the critical thinking process. They also led to some impact. I think there's some problem with my slides, sorry. So the impact that it created for them is, so basically we have done 8 master classes, reached out to 60 active community members, did 200 plus hours of sessions, and had one successful collaboration with a startup house. So now talking about the next steps, what I want to do is I want to start expand the scope of these offerings and offer it to accelerators and incubators, the same offering, and also in a way kind of expand my approach. So the other thing that I want to do is I want to collaborate with different communities and make them do the futures thinking projects. So I want to bring 2 communities together, enable the collaboration, and make the participants work on future projects. And these projects could be very short projects like this design fiction project to bigger projects. Basically, I want to bring 2 different communities together, create artifacts, and something wrong with my slides. And then the approach that we want to follow is we want to follow open spaces, if you are aware of that methodology, which lets people come up with their projects and then identify like-minded people. So follow that approach to bring people together and make them do the project. There are a lot of things which are in favor of it, and then a lot of execution challenges we may run into if I do a project like that. There's already a rise in communities. People are really wanting to spend a lot of time in building strong communities and to volunteer on purposes. And this initiative will help do that. So in a way, it's a combination of SDG 9 and SDG 17, like promoting futures thinking by enabling lots of partnerships. That's one of my aim with this particular project that I'm aiming as my next step. And it also helps communities develop strategic partnerships. I'm looking for collaborators for this particular project. If you if the vision sounds interesting to you, do let me know, and we can collaborate in a lot of different ways, including for partnerships and execution, community management. And we are in general, if we can't, we can also do mentoring. With that, it's a wrap to my session. Thank you so much for listening, and keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deepshika.
Thanks a lot, Anuba.
Would anybody like to ask something? Erica?
Yes. How was your experience with these workshops? How feel the people feels during the workshops? Do you think that they are really changing their minds and we need to still working more time with these people.
Yeah,
Please.
and exactly. I was surprised. So initially, my thoughts were like, probably people won't understand the impact of it. I know the long-term impact of it, but probably they might not. But they, to my surprise, they were very interested from the get-go. Many of them ended up attending more than one session. And even now in the phase 2, when once we are done with the workshop and we are moving more towards speculative projects, design fiction projects, they are surprisingly very interested in attending that as well and contributing to creating some artifacts. So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised.
Great. It is important that the impact. So very good.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing.
And thank you for the question.
Amazing, amazing. We'll have some more. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, Benjamin. Benjamin, so should I share my screen and let the presentation flow?
Yeah, Anupa, you could just start it.
Okay,
and
okay,
Yeah,
sure.
that'd be good.
Just 1 second, please. Okay, Benjamin, are you ready? I'm starting.
Yep, go ahead.
Can everybody hear me? Hear
No.
the
Can you?
Yes.
I can't.
Can people, can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear the audio? Okay, great.
As in the, are you talking about the slides? Because I can't hear
the slide audio.
I can't hear them. I don't know about everybody else.
That's okay for me.
Yeah, could the slide audio be heard?
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I still cannot hear the slide audio.
Did
you share
Benjamin,
the-
would you like to try from your end?
Yeah, let me jump. Give me a second to jump in.
You need to share the sound.
Yeah, I think if Benjamin.
Did you share the sound, Anupa?
Yeah.
No worries, Benjamin. You also can echo it.
Yes. Echo.
I don't
Echo,
think anybody want to hear my coal infested voice today. It's just a cold, it's not anything else. I just want to add, since the cold comes with a lot of connotations nowadays.
All right, everybody, how about this?
Sometimes as problem solvers, we fall into
Yes.
thinking. We keep trying to tackle a problem from all angles, but end up spinning our wheels. Today, we're going to talk about a different strategy of problem solving that can help us avoid this. Have you ever experienced suddenly forgetting the point you were going to talk about next, though just a moment ago, it was perfectly clear? What about introducing a family member to a friend and not being able to remember their name? Have you ever had trouble focusing and processing information? This happens to all of us, and there's a reason why. It's because conscious thought has constraints. Our brain is wired to only process so much data. Our limitations within conscious thought can be defined in 4 ways. Number 1, we fail to make even very basic observations when distracted. Number 2, when examining thoughts, you'll find exaggerated non-fact-based patterns. Number 3, we don't remember the past well, and we often reconstruct it. Number 4, our ability to process information is limited. The good news is, there's a way around these limitations. In contrast, have you ever experienced any of the following? Sudden insights in the shower or just after waking from sleep? Recurring dreams? Having an uneasy feeling about certain people or situations? These moments are a result of your subconscious. The goal is to start utilizing our subconscious mind more in problem solving. Why? Well, because of its benefits. The subconscious consumes little or no conscious resources. It has a much larger capacity, and it engages information that has less obvious relations to the task at hand. By tapping into your subconscious, you can move beyond the limitations you'll reach when consciously thinking about your problem. So how do we do this? We'll discuss 10 strategies. Normally, in the initial stages of problem identification, there are two groups. The first group acknowledges the existence of a problem, but hasn't moved beyond that starting point. And the second group, which has a general concept of their problem, but hasn't completely fleshed it out. In the next two slides, we'll talk more about the strategies that can help each of these groups gain the clarity they need for their subconscious to help solve their problem. Solution-focused brief therapy, SFBT, is a strategy that can help the group that hasn't moved beyond the acknowledgement of a problem. This strategy takes the approach that you know what you need to do to improve, and with the appropriate coaching and questioning, are capable of finding the best solutions. At the core of SFBT is the miracle question. Suppose you woke up one morning, and by some miracle, your problem was resolved. Everything good you could ever imagine had actually happened. Everything turned out exactly the way you wanted it. What will be the first thing you would notice? What will be different that will tell you a miracle has happened? Now, let's talk about a strategy that can help the group who need to gain a high level of granularity by better defining their problem. When you fall into this group, ask yourself these 7 key questions. After gaining clarity on your problem, you'll also need an incubation period. This is the time between your conscious thinking and when you finalize your decision. When you remove yourself from the problem and stop thinking about it, the solution can present itself. Schedule into your decision-making process this time to step away. Another strategy to tap into your subconscious is writing. Research has shown writing serves as an altered state of consciousness. There are many types of writing that can achieve this, including free writing, sentence completion, blogging, journal keeping, unstructured writing, and associational writing. The key is to keep the writing prompts open-ended. Here are some examples you could use to get started. It turns out that doodling is more than a mental distraction. According to research conducted by psychologist Robert Burns, doodles are a form of art therapy. At their core, doodles are nonverbal messages that surface from the unconscious mind. Although if you aren't an artist, I can relate. I recommend The Drawing Book by Ed Imberly and the WWJ presentation 103, Explore Your Creative Process with Visual Thinking. The next two strategies use your subconscious while you sleep. The first combines visualization with your imagination. Before you sleep, imagine you are at your dinner table. For dinner, you invited a grandparent, a famous figure, or a person you admire. Realize that this person holds the answer to all your questions. After a brief period, ask them the question that is troubling you. One of the easiest ways to engage our subconscious is while sleeping. Deidre Barrett, professor at Harvard Medical School, coined the term dream incubation, which is the ability to influence your dreams or request things of your dreaming minds. Dr. LaBerge of Stanford created the method for doing that, termed mnemonic induction of lucid dreams, or MILES. NSDR, non-sleep deep rest, is the state of consciousness between waking and sleeping. Clinical hypnosis is one of the forms of NSDR and is characterized by calm and high focus. Another is daydreaming. Gestalt therapy uses fantasy as the main way to rehearse our roles in future activities. This rehearsal can be used to avoid future negative real-world consequences. The final strategy I'll discuss is pursuing your interests. Carl Jung pioneered a concept he called circumambulation. In concept, you have a future self, which would be in potential everything you could be. The future self manifests in your present life by making you interested in things that would lead you to maximal development. The bottom line, spend more time doing more of what interests you. In summary, to maximize your subconscious's problem-solving abilities, keep an open mind. You never know when or where inspiration will strike. This quote from Twyla Tharp has become a guiding principle for me. I hope our discussion today of the power of your subconscious and strategies to tap into it has been helpful in preparing you to use the raw materials that exist all around you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Any questions for Benjamin?
How did you find out about the whole thing? I'm just marveled with the whole video.
It was just a concept I came across, and Yupa contacted me maybe like a week ago. So it took me some time to develop. I just had a very vague concept that unconscious processing is a way to get more work done. And I had to kind of expand it from there. So it took a couple of days. I have a whiteboard, and I just put up, the concept of like expanding critical thinking with your subconscious. And then I read and took some time and came up with some different topics and just researched them.
Really great stuff. It kind of puts together so many things that I've been experiencing, and you did a wonderful job at like sequencing the whole thing. Brilliant. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Benjamin. I just came from work. I didn't know that I was going to enter the Wednesday web jam. I did. And I brought a drink with me, ice, and Dani knows there are some plant extracts in here. So I was wondering, and don't answer it now at this moment. I was wondering if daydreaming and let's say using other substances, can that also affect us to get into the unconscious zone? Tackling interesting questions of yes technology, no technology, sleeping at the side of the Ebon Lake. Now, I know this might not sound logical. That's not the person I brought today.
No, we can talk more about it. And by no means am I an expert, but I think there was a lot of stuff because, I have 20 seconds, 20 slides. There was a lot of stuff that I had to cut out. And looking back and kind of hearing and rehearsing it a lot, there's some other things I left out that with a longer presentation would have made it in.
Thank you.
And I feel
And
like
being in nature is one of them. So
yeah.
I'm sure you could kind of bounce that off of Mr. Spolstra's presentation too. I'm sure there's something to be explored there.
There's, I think, like immersing yourself in nature and kind of like you're lowering your getting your conscious on the same level as kind of nature, or like trying to do that brings you in another state, or that's what I experience, or also when I go out with students, but also when I go mountain biking, then you also there's kind of these things that the pieces of the puzzle kind of fall into place when you just kind of, and that's more maybe number 10 you mentioned, like follow your interests. That brings you also into another zone. That doesn't have to be related to work maybe in the first initially, but later on that kind of like interesting to kind of discuss these two things together, maybe.
Absolutely. Steve Jobs, just a very simple one. I don't want to take up any more time. Steve Jobs found that he got his best ideas when he was walking in nature. So he did a lot of stuff about walking meetings.
Yeah, that happens. That happens. That happened to me like 2 days ago. I was thinking about work while walking, which I didn't want to, and then it was like aha moment. So I think now there is a logic to that. We'll talk more about this. I'd like to introduce our last speaker today, Fabrizio, who's Union. He's going to talk about something that you were deeply interested in. So Fabrizio, why don't you go and start and educate us?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Fabrício. I am a marketing manager from Brazil, and today we'll talk about neuromarketing. So let me share my screen here. Okay. And let me play this. So today we talk about neuromarketing. Then in the bottom line, neuromarketing is a scientific psychology that the research found a way to mapping your brain reactions. This is in a short definition. Why? They used this technology to identify behavior patterns. And they don't need to study thousands of millions of people. They can create a collective pattern studying, I don't know, a small quantity of persons. Why? Why this is important? Because everyone takes 30,000 daily decisions. It's a lot of decisions per day, and we need to save energy. Then, when we are working on how the brain works, they discover that 85% of our decisions are subconscious. So everyone don't think about every detail about every decision. Why? Because we have three different brains. We have the reptilian, we have the limbic, and the neocortex. And we'll talk in the next slides about this importance. The reptilian is the oldest one. This is the related to our survival kind. And then the reptilian, it's basically instinctive. It's the power is the powerful one. It's the action mode, the fight or run. Then you need to think about it, because the reptilian is always thinking about power. And you have the limbic brain. The limbic brain, it's emotions, pure emotions. And these emotions can't be always translated by words. So the neuromarketing can detect how the brain reacts from about something. And you have the neocortex. This is the youngest one. Then the neocortex brain can transform in words everything that we think that we can translate. It's not so exactly, but we try to translate our emotions. And how to work in a customer journey. We need to use metaphors for meaning. We need to create metaphors, not words, not using words. Words create images into the brain. So the brain works with images. And another way to work, it's offer to the brain, to the customers, few choices to save energy. Our brain consumes about 20% of our energy. So then it's a lot of energy. Then when you reduce the choices, you make the process going on. As a human being, we are visual. 80% of all the data that we consume comes from visual. The olfaction is in the second place. So you need to reinforce your visual as using semiotic and to try to sell emotions. Why? Because emotions beats the reason. Emotions, you need to sell the future. You need to sell the indulgence, pleasure, the forbidden, the freedom, the attitude when you try to communicate your brand or your product. And it's all about social. It's all about social. When the customer decides to buy something or choose something, he is thinking about himself and how it will reflect in the society too. One point very interesting, the brain likes to anticipate the facts. Then you can't be direct in your communication. You need to use metaphors, put a lot of emotion to make the brain run this way, because we know you can imagine the end of the things. And the symbolic value is everything. It's very more than the object that you buy, because the value represents you, and power can empower your personality. Another tip: the price is pain. Why price is pain? Because when you need to work, spend hours working to make money, to put this money buying something, then the price is pain. So you need to handle. It's offering a lot of advantage, and pay sells more. The brain doesn't like to lose. It is a very curious thing. Everyone likes to win, but when tells to someone that you can lose something, it is more powerful. And it's all a matter of contrast. And in your communication, you need to work with before and after, the small against the big one. You need to create some imaginary opposition. You need to create an enemy to create value. And commitment reinforces the coherence. Why? When we start, the customer starts their journey to buy something, you need to make them agree with you step by step, because the commitment will reinforce the coherence and open the way to sales. And the brand, it's an object of domination. In the end, we have here the reptile brain again. Domination, it's status. It's powerful, because you can be to sell yourself as a smartest person in the room using some special brand. Yeah. Yeah, I try to do my best with this short presentation, guys. I hope you enjoyed.
Yeah, it was fantastic. I really liked how we started from something which is, so much nature, then technology, and then it was going into human. And now I feel like yours was kind of like putting all of them together. So we went in a circle. So it was really, I mean, I can see the threads now. So I'm really glad that we did this today.
Yeah, this style of presentations was a challenge for me, because of the subject is so complex, and try to reduce the information. It wasn't easy. Yeah.
No,
but yeah, everyone can work with it, and using the copywriting, on the design, and the advertising. It's a sort of ways to use it.
Yes, I remember, Union, you were giving us that crash course, and she was like telling us about, because the topics, the context is quite heavy, for us to utilize it and then put it into a design thinking frame. And I was just in awe listening to her. So yeah, it was nice to see that there were connections about the human, and like you said, even price, things which are not so tactile and business oriented are also important to connect the brain, the product, and the whole system together.
I could throw in a question that we can talk more about it in the backstage, perhaps. And again, I must admit, I'm in a quirky mood, reading a book by Rutger Bregman, De meeste mensen deugen. And when I translate the title, it means most people are good people. That's my translation. He has his book in English. And he somehow leads the reader to flip exactly what you are seeing or what you have accepted for such a long time. So, for example, he did research on a few very famous Yale and Stanford researches on human behavior. And he flipped it. He showed us that we were in a way misled for a very, very long time. So I'm in that mood, and I'm not questioning everything. I don't mean that, but it does, make me think of the parts that we didn't talk about or didn't touch. So I do realize you show us how our brain works, making me ask myself, what is the body doing? Why aren't we just a human being with, this part? And as Sir Ken Robinson also asked us, is the body only here to carry our head and keep our brain safe? So let's have, if you're willing, let's have a conversation about that in the backstage.
Yeah, it's very nice because nowadays we have the data as taking over the marketing. It's we have a lot of artificial intelligence, a lot of things, but and we have today it's possible to predict the future using data, but the neuromarketing, it's a way that can show us there's some things that can really change the game, because we can't translate everything using words. And then social, to keep the social image, sometimes you need to present small lies. We can hide some truths, and you can't lie to the brain scan.
Interesting. Yes. Interesting. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm not a neuroscientist, but I use a lot this kind of information because it's a really shortcut to make the communication get better.
I agree with you. I use a lot of metaphors as well. Being a game designer in the past, it's easy sometimes to tap into. I like the very human metaphors that we know. I would say playing a game, connecting with others by play is one of the most profound metaphors we have. So I do apply that very, very often. And in my experience, it helps the connecting and addressing problems or solutions in a much easier way. And then I should explain to you what is the comparison. The comparison is sitting in a meeting, having a brief, an agenda, have asked stakeholders or guests to join the meeting. Some come, some don't come. And you keep using words, as you said, you keep using words. So how much image is sent through to the other? We need these metaphors instead of sentences built of words.
Yeah, and I think there are a very important point that the powerful of the quality the work that we can deliver. It's when you are able to match the three brains. You can't work just with emotion. Sure, emotion is a powerful thing, but you need to think about the reptile, the instinctive brain, because when you can connect the instinctive with emotions, and the third step, using the reason, you can conduct the customer in a good flow.
Interesting. Yeah, let's talk about that in the backstage.
Okay.
Let's talk about
before we battle.
before. She's already in the battling mood, so be prepared.
I've got some drink with plants in it.
Thank you so much. I would like to say that this has been a very insightful session. For me personally, I've learned a lot of new things to connect with nature through design, to see how the subconscious actually plays a part in our design thinking, and how our neural, marketing techniques are something so important, and again, connecting the subconscious with the conscious. So thank you, Fabricio, Benjamin, and Yuhun. Yunyan, I hope you realized I pronounced his name right, which I've been practicing for a month now. And over to Mimp and Pedro, who's going to be giving us the next exciting jam, part 2.
Before we do that, can we have a round of applause for Anupa, please? Because she put this together by herself. Woo! ASL clap or this clap, whichever. Thank you, Anupa.
Thank you.
So I will go ahead and talk about the next session. Or Pedro, would you like to talk about what's on for next week?
It's on the phone.
He's on the phone.
He is talking, just not to us.
He is talking, not to us. Okay. So next week will be the last week before we go fishing, and then we're going to come back in September. So this will be like our last session before summer holidays, because some of us have plans. Some of us has, some exciting plans. Yunyan might want to tell us later in the backstage, or everybody else could. So me and Pedro are co-hosting How to Pitch Creative Ideas. It's kind of like a part 2 from this session, wellly curated by Anupa. Thank you so much for this one. If you wonder how to pitch creative ideas, if you struggle how to, or if you want to take some tips from Pedro and see like, oh, how can you improve your pitch? It could be pitching within teams, or it could be pitching outside of your team to, another client or somebody else, like a customer. Join us and be with us and find out more. So yes, be with us. And I will put the register link in the chat now. So go register yourselves for our last jam before the summer. Thank you, everybody. And then if you'd like to submit any ideas for September, please do go to bit.ly, WWJ Ideas to submit. And if you want to go ahead and like and follow us on social media, WednesdayWebJam.com, or at WednesdayWebJam on most platforms like Facebook, Instagram. I think the only platform we don't have is like TikTok and Pinterest. I think that's it. But we're pretty much on nearly all social medias. And these are all our volunteer members. Some of us are here, some of us are not. And because of all of these lovely people, we are able to make something happen every Wednesday. And if you'd like to go donate us for a Ko-fi, we would be really appreciated. This is just to keep our operation costs going, like Zoom, MailChimp, and all of that stuff every Wednesday. And now you can hang out with us on the backstage. So I'm going to stop sharing and you wave goodbye to the recording and / YouTube. Bye.